here in the studio is Behnam Taleblu, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. It's good to see you here.
Pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
All right. What's happening now in the past 24 hours, it's a combination actually of the 2019 commemoration and the Mahsa Amini affair, right?
Yeah, there's actually several of these commemorations that have been going on. Iranian protesters have been protesting now for over 2 months since the brutal killing of Mahsa Amini in mid-September 2022. But as we know, that was not the first time Iranian people have poured out to protest against the government of the Islamic Republic. There have been several 40-day commemorations, 40 days since the death of a particular protester. Those have been basically commemorated en masse across many different cities in Iran. And as we know, the November 2019 protests were brutally repressed. 1,500 Iranians were killed, and the Iranian people continue to protest. So, these are commemorations of the resolve and the spirit and the bravery of the Iranian people, but we're seeing a lot more of the same from the regime, which is brutal repression, partial to full internet crackdowns, and more.
This is fresh video coming out of Iran now from the train there. People were beaten up inside. Even the Grand Bazaar was shut down in Tehran.
Yeah, these strikes are significant. If you have sustained strikes in the service sector, in higher education, and in particular the energy sector, you could have the cocktail of forces that basically brought about the end of the Shah in 78, 79 in Iran, because it was street power plus strike power, popular power plus economic power that became a domestic source of pressure against central authority. And if the Iranian people continue to protest and those protests are moved into strikes, then you could have time be put on their side as well.
Now, the UN demands Iran to release thousands of protesters. How many are there in jails?
Well, whatever is reported, I would treat that as a price floor, not a price ceiling. It's very hard to verify some of these numbers, so the numbers that do come out are usually underreported. So 15,000 is a bare minimum in my view. The regime tends to take people without due process. Mass incarceration is unfortunately a norm inside the Islamic Republic. It's not the exception. And this is better known as the injustice system of the Islamic Republic, not the justice system. So it's good that the UN is doing this, but ultimately we need more sustained transatlantic coordinated Western pressure through on Iran and through these international organizations.
Right. Now, the World Cup coming up in Qatar, is this also a source of concern for the Iranian regime?
I think anywhere where you have an Iranian delegation should be a source of concern, whether that's an embassy in Europe. As you know, there's been many protests outside of Iranian embassies, not just in Europe, but around the world, but in several international organizations where the government of the Islamic Republic is represented. And then now here, where there have been significant athletes, entertainers, and pop culture figures in Iranian society also lending their voice to support the protesters in Iran.
That will be very interesting to watch, no doubt about that.
Indeed.
Before you go, tell me, what do you make of this drone attack on this ship in the Oman Bay the other day?
This is a sign of the times. The Islamic Republic has mastered the unmanned aerial threat spectrum. Rockets, mortars, drones, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles. They're increasingly comfortable using them. This is not the first time they've used suicide drones to go after a tanker. In fact, they've killed foreign nationals on a tanker last summer, a tanker that was Israeli-owned. So this is more of the Israeli-Iranian shadow war, and this is more of Iran's increasing comfortability with these lethal weapons, which we now know are being used by the Russians in Ukraine as well.
Behnam, thank you very much. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.